Okay, David, in this lateral view, there are a lot of different things we can look at. The first thing we're going to look at is the forward lean. We want about 8 degrees of forward lean of your trunk, and that just allows reciprocal motion of your legs. So let's draw an angle and see how much forward lean you have. You're pretty stable the whole time in terms of your forward lean, so we'll just stop the video. And now I'm going to draw in the angle. So we're going to draw it through your ear, through your trunk, and then a vertical line. So you can see there your forward lean is about 7 degrees. So 8 degrees is normal, so you're spot on with your forward lean. The next thing we're going to look at is where your foot lands relative to your center of mass. So what we want to see is we want to see your foot landing close to underneath your body. So let's roll the video. Okay, and then I'm going to pause it and draw a straight line down so we can see where the center of mass falls. So we want that line to represent the center of mass basically through your ear, shoulder, hip, something close to midline. It's not going to be perfect, but it gives us a good approximation. The best thing to do is put it through your hip, which we have here, and then let's just roll the video and see where your foot lands. So you can see that you're landing a little bit forward of your center of mass. Now if we could get that stride a little shorter and have you land more directly under your center of mass, it might make a difference for you in terms of your cadence, and it might make everything just a little bit faster. So we saw that your cadence was low. One of the ways of improving that is to just have you land more directly underneath your body instead of reaching forward. The next thing I want to look at is your knee angle as you land. And what we want to see is that your knee is bending enough to absorb the shock as you land. So let's run the video again. So landing there, and then I'm going to stop the video and draw an angle so we can see the angle of your knee as your foot hits the ground. So you can see where I drew the angle in here. So your foot there at about your impact point, we see 154 degrees. So if we do 180 minus 154, that gives us an angle of about 26 degrees. So that's spot on. You want 15 to 40 degrees of knee flexion at impact in order to be absorbing those forces. So good job there. The next thing we're going to look at is the amount of hip flexion and extension that you have. Ideally, we want about 45 degrees of hip flexion, which represents your power generation after toeing off, and 30 degrees of hip extension. Hip extension is one of the major sources of forward power generation during the second half of your swing phase. So let's look at the hip extension first. So I'm just going to rewind the video a little bit so we see that right leg in maximal hip extension right after you toe off. So let's see. You are toes on the ground there, and right about there is when you first toe off the ground. That's your maximum hip extension. Right there. Okay. So I'm going to draw an angle. So there with the angle drawn in, we see that we're measuring at about 27 degrees. So the standard that you're looking for is about 30 degrees. So you're real close to it. I don't know if this is really an issue for you or not. I think you're close enough that it's probably not a major source of energy expenditure for you. So I don't think it's worth changing. And if you changed your cadence, this might be something that kind of automatically self-corrects. So the next thing we're going to look at is your hip flexion. So still looking at that right leg as it comes through and forward. We're going to find the point where just after you've toed off the ground, and then the leg is going to come up to a point of maximum flexion. So right about, okay, you can see it just started to come down. So right there, still going up. Okay, so right about there we have maximum hip flexion. So let's draw an angle and see how much that is. It should be 45 degrees for maximal power generation. Let's see what you have. So drawing in this angle, it looks like you actually have exactly 45 degrees. We could tweak the angle a little bit. That's a little too high. Yeah, when we get you lined up perfectly, you're at 45 degrees. So your hip flexion extension is pretty spot on.